Hi, and welcome to this podcast, Laughter Lab. I'm so happy to have you here. So, I know about the things that you do, which I believe are very cool. As a matter of fact, I was in a storytelling workshop with you this weekend, which was awesome. But for the millions of people that are out there that will be listening and possibly even watching this thing, can you tell us a little bit about you and the things that you do?
Yeah, millions of people. I love it, Stefano. All right, let's go, millions of people. I'm Cathey Armillas. I'm a TED speaking and storytelling coach. So I coach people how to speak and storytell, right? That's kind of the crux of it. It is a funny thing because who grows up thinking, oh, that's what I'm going to be? Like, I just fell into this and now it's my thing. But that's what I do.
Well, and I know you do it really, really well. That's cool. Here in this podcast, we talk about humor, laughter, and joy and happiness in general and also in the workplace. My first question for you is when you were growing up, was there someone in your family that you recall, to be like the funny person?
Oh, hell yeah. My uncle Vince. And I never knew what dry humor meant until I was older, but I immediately went back and thought about how my Uncle Vince was. My Uncle Vince, so my mom's 100% Italian, and you and I share this, although, like I'm only half, but so my mom and her siblings, they're very Italian, and my Uncle Vince, very Italian, and he just looks like that mean mob motherfucker, right? Like he's not smiling and happy. He always has that like I'll kill you kind of look on his face. So he was always very humorous, and it was like a really weird thing to digest because you would hear him say something funny, but he was very dry about it. And you have this dichotomy of him looking pretty scary. And I now, as an adult, can very much appreciate that kind of humor.
We always have, that uncle in the family, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think we do. Yeah, we all have an Uncle Vince, right?
Right. um, what role does laughter and humor play in your life and in your career?
Yeah, I love that you do this, Stefano, and you're so great at it, by the way. I've been to your shows and you're so naturally gifted at making people laugh. I think there's many facets of humor, and a lot of people in my space, when I'm coaching them to speak, they're very afraid of it because they think it's like telling jokes. And in the way I teach, I'm like, humor is in layers, humor is in commentary, humor is in observations, and in that way, humor is accessible to everybody. But if you try to make it be like, oh, you need to be a comedian or you need to be an improver and you need to improv your humor, I think it's really scary for people. I think when you speak and you're humorous, it breaks down the wall between you and your audience, and it allows you to really connect and for people to see you in a different way and relate to you in a different way.
I love that you said that. I love the fact that you said it's not about telling jokes, right? It's not about becoming the stand-up comedian because that sometimes I get that, when I tell people, oh, it's important to have more humor, laughter in the workplace. People, oh, would you want me to tell joke? No, no, no. It's not that. It's about your mindset, right?
Yeah. In fact, don't you tell people? Because I always do. I'm like, if you're not a comedian, please don't try. I promise you.
Yeah,
Comedians that have made it have spent probably 20 years of getting chicken wings thrown at
right.
them and like, like please don't attempt it if you don't know how to do it. Don't
Yes.
do that stunt, okay?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, because yeah, it can be very painful, right? Especially when things don't land, right?
Yeah. Super painful.
Yeah. So, what do you think? How do you think that humor, laughter, and play can, impact the workplace?
Yeah, I definitely, I think we all know this now because there's been a lot of research on it, but it's medicinal. And when we laugh, it can actually heal us. And so It can break down a tense situation. It can connect two people that don't have the same background or aren't speaking the same language. And I'm not just talking about actual language, but I'm maybe, like an engineer and a salesperson. They're not ever speaking the same language. One person just wants to sell, and the other person's like, I have to build this thing that you're selling. And so there's a lot of tension at work. And in fact, even on that note, I remember I used to work at the industrial shredder manufacturer that I worked at as the marketing manager. There was this one engineer who was so funny. He always made things humorous. He had this joke, and I think it's a common engineering, joke, but he said, "In God we trust, everybody else bring facts." And it's just like he's basically like, don't give me your sales speak. Like, you come to me with facts and hard things that I can work with, you know. And so I think that kind of humor, like, it can break down a tense situation where somebody could be like, "Oh, you sold this thing and now I have to make it," and there's all this tension. So I think humor can go really far in how it can help in the workplace and in human interaction.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, as long as you know how to, use it and like how to do it in the right way, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a place or work with somebody, maybe now in your career or in the past where you felt like there was, some sort of resistance, or people felt like, oh, this is a business, or there is no place for you more, or there is that mixed concept, or like, because I'm a serious business, that everything else has to be serious, that it can't be, laughter and play.
Yes. Yes, I get that a lot. Even in coaching people to speak, I get that. Like, there has to be this super serious tone, and I'm like, there doesn't have to be. I think that there is a weird mindset out there, and I think I always try to tell people, like, that's not lowering the intelligence level because you make it humorous or fun or lighthearted. We can still be very smart, intelligent, brilliant, wise, and also be human and funny and humorous and connecting. So those things they can live together for sure. But Stefano, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I want to ask you about, I want to know how you started, because you're great. Like, you use humor in such a great way. And I've even been on your sessions where you're teaching us normal folk, right, how to use more humor in our life. Like, where did it start for you?
Thank you for asking that. And
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
you can
curious.
ask. I mean, of course you're allowed. How did it start? I think I always had that passion to, like, I don't know, entertain, right? Or I
Mm,
don't know, like make. It's a very interesting question, because I think, like, why do I want to entertain? I think,
mm,
or like, why do you want to be on stage and make people laugh, right? To me, it's like, it's the greatest gift, to make them laugh. And
yeah.
also it's a way, to, I don't know, it's like I feel like I'm loved
Mm.
by a bunch of people. And in one moment, I
Aw.
created an experience where, like, people love me. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a, I don't know, a validation, sort of, right? Instant validation
Mm.
of, like, what I say that I do is like, oh yeah, we love you, we like you, you made us laugh. It's I don't know. Was it because, I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't get enough love in other aspect of my life. I don't think that was the case.
Right.
But surely, in my family, I think my parents, like, grew up in a world or generation where, like, they didn't have the chance to share much about their emotion, or they didn't talk about it. Maybe it was cultural, maybe different time of, I don't know. So maybe, I don't know, in a way I wish that my parents would express that more often. And so to me, like, making people laugh, it's a way to, like, receive that love or
Mm.
that validation, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's super insightful, I think, because if, in my case where I'm coaching people to speak, um, if they just speak and they're serious, they might not ever know, they might not get any validation of knowing when people walk away, they might be like it felt like people might have liked it, but I'm not sure. But I think in your case, and you're like great entertainer, by the way. And so when you have people like doubled over laughing, I think it is instant, well, there's validation. And it doesn't have to be that weird, like, I need validation, but it is kind of assuring, like, I do this thing and then immediately I see the results. Not only the results for you, but I think the results, like, when I was at your show, I'm watching everybody, like, I could see everybody smiling, their faces hurting because they're laughing. I think you're also instantly like causing a huge effect in the audience and for the audience.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
that's nice of you to share that. And then, the thing you said earlier about some people thinking like, oh, because I bring humor and laughter, it doesn't mean that like I'm not smart, or like maybe I bring
Yeah.
the
Not
intelligence
wise.
level or
Yeah.
wise or whatever. And I think like sometimes it's kind of the opposite. I think when you can have more humor and laughter, it's because I wouldn't say you're smarter, you know what I mean, but you know what I mean. It's like that you need that level of
You can merge concepts. You're able to not just have it be one flavor. You can kind of merge flavors. Yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I
And then
totally agree with
develop.
that.
Yeah, and like also like the fact that you can develop a sense of humor, or you can, because that's something that we can learn, right? It's not, yes, maybe more, some folks are more prone to that, but I think it's a skill that we can all learn, right? But you need maybe you need to be intelligent to like grasp that, the moment, when is it funny, when can I have humor, right? Or to understand humor, I think you need to be a little bit, I don't know, open-minded. I have a different mindset.
Oh my gosh. I would love to talk about that a little bit more because I think it's really important for anybody watching. What you're saying is so true. Because when I come at it from like a speaker's perspective, and like, let's just take the TED stage, for instance. When I'm coaching somebody to give a TED talk, this is usually a 14 to 18-minute talk, and many times it's on their life's work, like there's some big idea that they're working on. So they're usually the person that is the expert in that. Nobody can argue with their expertise, but the way that they deliver it is critical. So do you want to be that person? Do you want to be that person that has a one-track mind that's just like, I'm going to tell you all the information and it's so boring and I have to it's what's important to me is just to tell you the information. And so I spend a lot of my time trying to unwind some of that with people. I'm like, awesome. Well, first of all, let's take all the information that you know and let's put it in a concept. Let's give it a way that the brain can understand it a little bit easier. Let's make a concept out of it. Don't just blah all this information. And then how can we add different layers to it? Can we add some humor? Can we make a joke about that? Can we make a self-effacing joke about that? Then people will laugh because they get it. They understand. They can relate. Can we get really serious about it? Can we go really deep with it? So how do we make, and so I love what you're saying because you could be intelligent, book intelligent or book wise, and you can say things on a singular level. And what I think is more intelligent is if you can mess around with that and it's not just like this.
Yeah,
It's funny,
absolutely.
it's serious, it's sad, it's
Mm,
poignant, it's deep, it's wide by how
mhm.
many people can understand, like all of the things.
I love it. Yeah, because that resonate. You tap in on different emotion, and so that would resonate, with different people, right? Because people, maybe some folks might resonate more with the funny side. Some people might resonate more with the facts. Some people with the
Right.
drama, wherever there is, right? But I think in general, if you use humor, if you're able to, I think that it's easier to like to get things to stick, to land, right? To the information, right? So if I talk about a topic that might even be very, very heavy, but I can have a little bit of laughter and humor in it, the people, this is my opinion, right? But the people, let's say this is a TED talk and I'm presenting something that it's very intense, I don't know, but I am able to have some humor in it. The audience that will walk away, I believe they will remember it more if you're able to have some humor in it.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think that, again, I think humor is a huge one, making us feel any emotion. If you can attach any emotion, I think it will always be accepted and digested on a deeper level. And I think humor is the easiest, fastest way to get there. And I
Mm.
do feel like people have a block. People tell me that too with storytelling. Ugh, there's other people that have lots of great stories. I don't have any great stories to tell. I'm like, oh, you have lots of great stories to tell. You haven't gathered those stories. So they're probably forgotten. Something probably happened yesterday that was hilarious or great or very observant, or but you didn't capture it or you didn't think of it as a story, right?
Hmm. Yes. And why do you think people have a block? What is it that prevents them to like, believe, or I don't know. I don't know.
I think people think, yeah, it's a great question. I personally, from all the work with people I've done, I think people self-label themselves. They get
Mm,
this one label and they don't understand how multifaceted they could be. Yes,
mm,
you can be great at numbers, you can be great at logic. You can also be very funny and and humorous and human, and there can be other sides to who you are. And I think we label ourselves and put ourselves in boxes, but we can be anything that we work at. So you help people with humor. I've been to some of your sessions, like I said, and you gave us some easy drills that we could just do. And if we
mm.
practice that, we would get better at it. If we practice and practice and practiced, we could get better at it. So we get to decide if we're humorous or not. We get to decide if we're funny or not. And it just depends on if we're willing to put in some work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And same with the speaker, right? I mean, if you want to be better, if you want to be a great speaker, or want to have a great TED talk, you got to practice,
Oh,
right?
for sure, right? I even say this thing, because I have my Speaker Skills Academy, and my partner Mark and I created this space because we didn't think anybody was out there doing exactly what we're doing, which is like, if you want to get better at anything in life, you have to drill it. Think about it. You don't get better at anything in life when you're doing the actual thing. You don't get better if you're a piano player, you don't get better at the performance. At that moment, you're only playing the piano to the best of your ability, to however long you've practiced and how whatever kind of drills you've done, whatever you've been coached or taught to do, that's all you're going to do. So how do you get better? It's not just by doing performances, it's by doing all the practice and all the drills. And so I think that's where it falls in here, is like, you do drills, you intentionally do a drill that will help increase your humor muscle, if you will, your funny bone, I guess, or whatever, your funny muscles. And that's how you can get better.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you can practice, learn, and yes, you just have to do it, I guess, right? Take the first step. Did you ever have like or work for somebody that was, very resistant or didn't really believe in that, or told you like, oh, I don't know, Katie, I don't think this is appropriate, or I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, I remember one of my I remember one of my bosses when I was in my early 20s who was very much like that. I sometimes now that I'm like older and I've been in the workforce for a lot longer time, I understand why certain personalities end up becoming manager level. But if you think about this for a second, people that are really good with logistics, they probably can make it to a manager level, but they usually cap out there. Why do you
hmm,
think they cap out? Do
they're
you know?
lacking something. What is it?
They're lacking the rest, which is to be, you can manage processes, you can even manage people because it's logistics, but in order to actually be a leader, you
Mm,
need to be able to lead in a human way. You need people to actually follow you because they're inspired by you. And so having humor as one of those tools in your toolbox will make you a better leader. And so yes, I remember having like managers that were managing me, and I'm like, now it makes sense. Of course, you're not the CEO of the company. Of course, you're not one of the VPs, because you didn't go past, all the logic. You can like manage it on paper, but you didn't know how to talk to people. You didn't know how to engage with people. And
mm.
that's, you're gonna cap out there. That's where you're gonna stay.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Thank you for sharing that. I believe that. Yeah, absolutely. Because that, like, I guess humor and laughter make us more, you more humans, and then it's really about that connection that you can have, with just another human being. It's so simple, right? But we don't even realize that we might have so many things in common that then kind of like humor and laughter can bring those things out, right? That you like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I laugh about the same thing, or I like the same thing, or I watch the same type of comedy, or whatever that is, that it's like, oh, we can relate. Because generally speaking, I think we laugh at things that we relate to, like we have, because we had that experience, right? We had that experience, so we're like, oh, I know how it feels like. I know, that feeling. I know the emotion. I've been there, so I can laugh about it, or I can cry about it, whatever that is.
Yeah. 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 I'm curious what actual techniques you use for people to get there. And I'll tell you one of mine, but I'd love to hear yours because you're definitely the pro in this area. But for me, I'll start with somebody if I want them to add humor.
Hmm.
I'll start by asking them a question like, what has been an embarrassing thing that happened to you in that space? Like, for instance, when I'm telling speakers, like, yes, we all get nervous when we first have to go onto a stage. In fact, I'm not a perfect speaker. One of the first times I stood on a very big stage, I used to have a hair flicking habit. I didn't know I was doing it, had no idea. It was just like a nervous tick. I was flicking my hair. And one
Mhm.
day I had a hoop in my ear, like I have in
Oh.
now, and I grabbed it and I ripped it out on stage. And so that I was more embarrassed. It hurt, don't get me wrong, my ear hurt, but I could feel my face start to get like flush. It was getting red. And so I'm like, if I share this story, you can laugh at me because you can laugh at yourself too. Like, so
Yeah.
it's an instant. And so I start with embarrassing things. That's a quick, easy way.
Okay, this is amazing that you're sharing this because this is also one thing that I do, right? And it's about self-deprecation and it's about, okay, are you able to laugh about yourself? And also, we all had those moments that like, so now you just say, yeah, there you got it. I mean, that was on the spot because it's basically in that moment. I'm sure you ripped that thing out of the ear. Oh, that was painful. That was embarrassing in the moment. Okay. But now we're able to laugh about it. Now you're
Yeah.
telling the story. We're laughing. We're
Yep.
sharing this. So to me, it's like, can we get to a point where while this thing happened, we can laugh, right?
Mm.
Or like say in that moment, we're like, ouch, that thing happened. You ripped the earring out of your ear. Could you like could you have said something, or you know what I mean? Like that was maybe humorous in that moment. You know what I mean? I don't know
Yeah.
what that was, but something that like, oh, I had to do with that moment in the spot because
Yeah. Like, oh, I didn't need that earring anyways.
yeah,
I like better to have one earring or something like
exactly.
that,
I
right?
didn't need that ear anyway or
Yeah, I
whatever,
didn't need
right?
that earlobe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss it, but I didn't need it.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. So boom, we just came out with three things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instant,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that, like, imagine you would have done that in the spot, like on the
Hmm.
spot, right? While you're
Yeah.
doing that, because you are, as you say, you were doing a presentation, you were on a big stage. Everybody was aware, everybody saw it, right? Oh, everybody felt like, oh, probably, right? There was a
And
moment.
I
Everybody,
didn't say anything, Stefano. That's how new I was. I was like, I pretended like it didn't happen. That's even funnier now because I'm like, how stupid did you look back then? Like, you're like, I just ripped an earring, and I could see people's faces were like,
I know,
yeah, they
right?
were like, ah, and
Oh,
I was just
yes.
like, ah, blah 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 blah
It's
blah
nothing.
blah blah blah.
No, it didn't happen. You know, like blood
Yeah,
was dripping.
exactly. I was like, blood.
Everybody see. I wish we had a video of that. I
I
wish we
know.
had a
I
video
wish
of
I
that.
did too.
But
Oh,
that's the thing. So there is a little bit of self-deprecation. I can make fun about myself. I can make fun of my a mistake, right? I mean, whatever, an
yeah.
accident that happened in the moment. And that to me is the best part. I have in one class, I had a woman that shared with me this story that I always share every time I do training and things. She said I was working for this corporation, very serious environment. We were about to go in the meeting. I had to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I sit. I get one of those, those paper like the seat covers, right? Like to cover the
Oh,
seat.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put that thing down, and then I stood up, and that thing stuck to my back, and I didn't realize. So I went back into the meeting. It's a corporate meeting, very serious environment, and I'm walking around. I'm talking to folks, and that thing is flapping. Yes,
Oh
until
no.
somebody finally said, "Hey, there is that thing exactly, right?" So same situation. It wasn't funny at the moment. She felt very embarrassed. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
But later she shared with us, and we were all laughing.
Yeah. 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 That's super funny.
So that moment, can we do that in the moment? Can we say something? Oh, maybe you can make a comment. Oh, do you like my new skirt? Or I don't know. It's just an extra thing that I bought. I don't know what it is, but just a little thing because we all aware of that moment. We all see it, right? But how can we transform that into something that is beneficial in a way through humor? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that too because so another thing that I really teach, I just was working with a brand new client. When I first like work with a client, one of the things I do is I make them start a story file, right? I'm like the why a story file is so critical is because people that are good storytellers don't just come up with great stories out of nowhere. They've gathered them, they've written them down, they've categorized them, which is the most important part. And if you think about it, one of my categories in my story file, well, there's a couple with humor. There's one that's just straight humor, there's one that's like funny, there's another one that's like funny lines. So I have quite a few. And when you have it that way, you start to find the humor, start to find the funny. Like
Mm.
when you look at it a different way, the way you look at it kind of changes, right? That's a famous quote or whatever, right? You like when you're starting to look for humor, you'll find it.
Yes, and if you, but that, yes, amazing. Because but the thing to me is like, are you able to, like, pause and look? Can you have that moment in your life, whatever, not necessarily at work, but just in life, because to me, humor and comedy is everywhere. You just have to look.
You have to look. Yeah. I love that. I love
And
that so
also,
much.
like, you need to have that moment of like, pause, okay, and observe, be present. That's one of the things for me that is great about laughter. You're in the moment, you're present. There is nothing else you can do. You're just doing that. And when you're done with it, if you allow yourself to do it fully, you feel better afterwards, right? It's a big
Yeah.
release. It's a big, I feel better. Same with crying, right? Oh, if I
Yeah.
like, oh, if I'm very sad, I cry. Oh, I'm sobbing. But then after, I feel better because it's similar, right, in that regard. But to me, like, the one of the main thing is like, can you are you able to observe? Can you see that? Are you
Mm,
aware of what is happening? Because sometimes we are so caught up in our heads. I mean, this is me. This is all of us, right? We're like always busy thinking, especially like, people like us are like entrepreneur. I mean, personally, I feel like I'm constantly working, right? I never stop. I'm like
yeah.
always thinking of next thing to do,
Yeah.
next
Yeah. Yeah.
project, next call, whatever. It's always there. But sometimes it's good to have that moment, like, okay, pause. Can I just be?
Can I observe? Can I be? Can I
Yeah,
think? Can I settle? I love that.
yeah. And
Um,
sometimes I feel like, um do you actually, that could be a question. Do you feel like that maybe we society doesn't allow that, or you know what I mean, that maybe in the workplace we are not allowed to just pause, or just actually to just be. Maybe sometimes at work we need to, you know pretend to be something or someone else, or act in a certain way, or look a certain way, when maybe the best things that we can do is just be.
mm, I love that so much. Yeah, I think that we feel that way in many scenarios, not just work.
Mm,
I think there's a standard mode of operation, if you will,
mhm.
in all of our places, even in our, family unit. I think that depending on who you are and where you're falling in your family, there's a certain mode you're supposed to be in, and it changes over time. I think parents of kids will then become grandparents of their kids, and like things change, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of stuff changes. One of the things I was saying is like, this is my in my story file, these are all the stories that I've tagged as funny stories. So I just gather them, like for instance, um, I'll just read the one that I stopped on. There's a new definition for swag, and it's the scientific wild ass guess, not stuff we all get. It's scientific wild ass guess. Like, and so just a funny, like, I wouldn't have remembered that. I remember having a conversation with a client, and then that came up. That's what swag is. And, you know,
Mm,
but if I gather it and I want to use humor, or, if I want to be more funny, I could do a whole section on that when I'm speaking, and that's funny. That will bring some humor in. And then maybe I can even do a an exercise with all the people that I'm working with and be like, come up with a four-letter acronym that we think is something else and make it something else. That could be a whole funny, hilarious, could be a fun thing. Let's take LEAP, LEAP, and let's
okay,
come up, yeah, let's come
yes.
up with something funny. Or let's take, like laugh.
Mhm.
Let's make something out of laugh, right? Anything.
Yes.
That could be really fun. So yeah, I do think that there's a standard mode of operation, and it's up to us to break it.
Totally, yes. And I love that exercise. Like, can we change that? Mm. Yeah, it's great, right? Because we all know how to do it, and I mean, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah, it's
But
easy.
come up with something, right? And yeah, it's great. I'm gonna steal that from you.
Yeah, fine. That's I'd steal stuff from you. So we're sharing.
um, yes. So, say I'm one of, an executive, a CEO, a manager of a company, or wherever. That maybe I'm a little, I don't know, not the funniest person, but I do want to bring more laughter, more humor, more joy in my workplace. What can
Mm.
I do? Do you have any suggestions for me?
I do. I do. I think it would go back to the story file. It would be, but it would be this. So let's say you're a manager, a leader in an organization, and you're going to start a meeting. You could, you give permission to everybody else to be funny or to be vulnerable if you can start that way. So maybe you start with an icebreaker with your team and you start to slowly show them, hey, we can bring it. So this funny thing happened to me, dot, dot, dot. Start off with that. This funny thing happened to me. I walked out of a bathroom and didn't realize that the seat cover was attached to my pants and was very embarrassed. And then, like, if the leader says that, imagine this lady that was in your group. If she's now leading other people, like, what if she tells that to them? And then when she shows her humanness and can laugh at herself, she'll allow other people. But you can't just come into a room and be like, we should use more humor. Like
Sure.
you have to show by example first that you're willing to be vulnerable and tear down your walls and do it. And then I think people will start to feel safe to do it as well. And then I think it will catch on. And then I think it can be part of your culture, you know, like funny observations. Then another day it could be funny observations. I think it's so funny. Like I'll just give you an example. This is stupid. I just thought of it when I was like funny observations. I was in a parking garage over the weekend, we were parking for TEDx Portland, and it has a picture of a person, and it says, "Bring your ticket with you to pay for it because you'll get out of the garage faster." And it shows the person holding a ticket that if it was in real life, it would be like this big, right? And so I'm like, that's a weird observation. Shouldn't the ticket be like this
Right.
big? Like,
Yes.
and the person's like, "Here,
Yeah.
bring this ticket," just stuff like that, right? It's just an observation. And so it's not that it's a joke, it's just it's a funny. So then you could say, well, what have you observed that's funny? And then we start even thinking on different modes, like, oh, have we seen a weird label? Or have we, what are some observations that we've made that are kind of weird or funny?
Absolutely, I love that. And then we might have observed the same thing, or we might have noticed the same thing.
Yeah.
Some of us in the group, oh yeah, I saw that too. I thought that was funny too.
Yeah.
They- It's yeah, very simple stuff, right? Just but be able to like, can you do it? Can you stop? Can you observe? Can you take the time to do it, right? And surely, as you said, you got to lead by being an example, right? If you're the one, if you're the the manager of the CEO of the company, and you are not, I don't know, sharing that with others, then why do others should do it? Why do other people should follow your, I mean, if your example is like, oh, got to be serious all the time, and there is no time for laugh or like, then what kind of culture are you creating? I don't know. Interesting. It's
And the
it's just
funny thing
little
is,
steps that we can do, right? But they can
yeah.
make a huge difference.
And the funny thing is, we're more productive. My partner Mark said that one thing that he hates right now is when people say get back to work. When you're doing something that is like meant to be a break that allows you the creative space, and he's like, that is the work. Like he's like, I hate that you're taking fun things and saying that that's not work. That actually is a huge part of good productive work, is being able to allow your creative brain to take over, your humorous brain to take over. Your serious brain sucks, honestly. Like like
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
allow some other pieces of your brain. Allow your kindness brain to take over. Allow your inclusive brain to take over. Don't always just be in like serious work mode.
Yes.
Less
It's not
productive.
totally, and it's not about. I share this with other guests in the podcast. Sometimes we have this idea that we need to be busy all the time, but we're not necessarily productive, right?
No, not at all. You're just moving papers around, you're sending emails, you're shifting like
Right.
timelines, but you're not
Yeah.
really having that space to observe and be. I love that you said that. I think it's awesome. Just
Mm.
be.
Yeah, just be. And I love that, the fact that get back to work. Stop saying that, right?
Stop saying that.
Yeah. We should have
Stop.
t-shirt like printed.
Yeah, stop saying that. Stop saying get
I'm
back to work.
working.
Mark, and then it like we'll credit Mark for it, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I love that. This has been great. I love it. I love talking with you. This has been very inspiring. So,
Mm.
if people want to know more about the amazing things that you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, if you know how to spell my name, some people don't know how to spell my name. If you spell my name right, you'll get me, Cathey Armillas. So it's
Mhm.
Cathey. There's an E in there. And then I always say Armillas, like tortillas. So,
Yes.
So if you look me up, I'm the only Cathey Armillas in the world, and you can find me everywhere. But that's my website. And yeah, thank you for having me on the show, Stefano.
Yeah,
This is fun. I love it. Just brightened my day to be able to talk about humor and laughter.
awesome. And would you mind like tell me a little more about, because I know you have this amazing thing called Speaker Academy. Can you tell me a
Mm.
little more about it?
Yeah. So my partner Mark and I, the one that doesn't like to tell people to get back to work, he lives in Brooklyn, New York, and we decided that we would create a place where if people wanted to get better at speaking and storytelling, that they could come and drill. And we have people like today, for instance, I'm running a session called Find Your Speaking Flavor, where I'm gonna show people what their primary speaking flavor is, but then if you have a primary speaking flavor, how can we find your secondary and how can we like multi-layer that? So we do intentional drills. We will have a humor day where we try to bring humor into speaking. We'll have another day where we're talking about how to bring metaphors. So always a very specific skill. And when you come into the room, we don't teach, we drill. So that's what the whole community is about. We're like, come into the room, drill, 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 you know?
Yeah, I love it. That's
Yeah.
great. All right. Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you for your time. This has been awesome.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you.